Eufy have made some serious waves in the world of smart home tech. They've only been in the market for about 5 years, but already they're really popular with reviewers, especially when it comes to making robot vacuums affordable for everyone, not just those who have cash to spend. So today we're looking at the 35C, and this robot sits in Eufy's budget range alongside models like the 11S or the 30C. And unlike the 11S, the slight differences with the 35C is that you've got Wi-Fi capabilities and smart home connectivity, and it has small stylistic differences. So let's be honest, the 35C is not the Rolls-Royce or the Tesla of robot vacuums, but like the trusty Suzuki or Hyundai, this robot gets the job done, and it does it without breaking the bank. Eufy has become a respected player in the robot game, mainly because of their ability to make affordable robots that actually work. This robot isn't what you'd call a smart navigating robot. By that we mean it doesn't use LiDAR or cameras to build a map of the house. Instead, it uses an algorithm to explore the house. We call it smart random. So that's the combination of infrared and bump sensors to find its way around. It's slim and it's light, which makes it easy to pick up and direct if you need specific cleaning. It also has scheduling features in the app, which means you can time it to clean in line with your daily routine. It uses 1500 pascals of suction power. It has 3 different suction modes. So one of those modes is called Boost IQ, and that increases the suction when it detects that it's cleaning on carpet. The battery life is 100 minutes, and that's if it's set on low power mode, so you'd expect it to be slightly shorter if it's cleaning on max mode. It's smart home compatible. The app itself is really easy to use. It's got some handy features like edge cleaning and spot cleaning and an auto cleaning function. So while you can't create a map to see exactly where the robot is and use features like no-go zones, you can use a location sound on the app to see if it's stuck somewhere. On paper, this looks like it should be a good candidate for a leading robot in the budget range, but again, you do not know how it's going to compare until you've lived with it and tested it. So that's what we're doing today.
Robots are a bit like people. Each one has its own personality and quirks, and you don't really know what it's like until you've lived with it. So that's what we do. We give you unbiased, objective reviews so that you can make your own decision.
So here's everything that comes in the box of the 35C. As expected, you've got the robot and the charging base. This robot also comes with a battery-powered remote. Eufy kindly give us some batteries as well. They've also included spare side brushes and filters, and you get magnetic tape, which is what you use to cordon off areas around your home that you don't want the robot going into. So before we put this robot through our tests, as always, it's important to talk about navigation. We mentioned earlier that this robot's navigation is described as smart random. So in terms of innovation, smart random robots are almost as impressive as smart robots themselves. They use an algorithm to plan an efficient coverage of the room, but in addition to the algorithm, the 35C uses infrared sensors. So these sensors are used to detect walls and obstacles and work together with the bump sensor along the front. This is backed up by wheel and cliff sensors, which work together to tell the robot when it's about to hit objects or take a tumble. So, because the navigation isn't totally methodical, the robot will often cover the same spot multiple times and continues to clean until its charge is low and it needs to return to the base. If you leave it long enough, however, it will normally cover the whole room. It's just a bit less efficient than a smart navigating robot. It's not a huge deal for most people because at the end of the day, you're not doing the work yourself. An interesting thing about the 35C is that it comes with a physical remote which has manual steering options. So if there's an obvious spot that needs quick attention, you can just manually drive this robot to clean exactly where you need it to go. While having to step in and guide a robot may seem almost, ironic, for some, it can be a good option when you want to quickly vacuum up a spill, but avoid having the robot to attempt a full clean of your home. So, in summary, this robot may not be able to map your house like its premium cousins, but it will eventually cover the same ground, and the effect of its cleaning is almost as good. It's just a fraction of the price. So looking at the robot when we put it in our test apartment, overall it did an impressive job. For a smart random robot, we were impressed with its coverage and cleaning in general. From what we can see, it covered approximately 95% of the apartment and took itself back to base to recharge after an hour and 15 minutes of cleaning. So this robot didn't get lost or stuck. Again, some other robots have, because our test room has a few tricky spots, especially around the keyboard and the piano stool legs, but this one didn't. It did lose a side brush under the piano though, and we think that this is because we didn't put it on properly at the beginning of the test run, just because we haven't had that issue since, but to make it a fair test, thought it was worth noting. As a general note, like we did in our test apartment, it's a good idea to pick up small objects to make sure the robot doesn't get stuck if you're using it in your home. We then put this robot through our series of tests to see how it would compare with other similar robots. As mentioned earlier, smart random navigating robots do take longer to clean an area than smart navigating robots. In general, it's about 2 or 3 times as long. This means that the result of some of our tests are difficult to compare with smart navigating robots. But that being said, since this robot vacuums and cleans until it runs out of charge and then returns itself to base, people who use this are usually shocked at how much dirt and dust it picks up daily. So we first put it through the sound level meter test. The max sound of the 35C is a noticeable hum, but it's not unpleasant at all. The standard and max mode was 61 and 64 decibels, which is well below the sound of an average vacuum cleaner, for context, which sits around 75 decibels. We then tested its suction on the hard floors. In the instant coffee test, it picked up 90% of the coffee after about 4 minutes. Again, it took a little longer than premium robots, but it still cleaned effectively. On the Fruit Loops test, it cleaned approximately 90% of the Fruit Loops, and you can see it wasn't able to pick up 2 Fruit Loops that were flicked right to the edge. Again, we do say if we left this robot running in our test area until it ran out of charge, it would be possible that those remaining Fruit Loops would be picked up eventually. Turning to the carpet tests, we measured out 20 grams of Fruit Loops, and the 35C picked up 90% of those. There were 2 obvious clumps of Fruit Loops it didn't seem able to pick up due to their size. On the hair test, the 35C struggled quite a bit. While it eventually did pick up 100% of the long hair we scattered round, it needed help untangling the main brush and it got stuck a couple of times. To be fair, this test is pretty unrealistic because of the amount of hair that we throw at it, but we should note if you've got a lot of long-haired people in your home, long hair tends to roll around the main brush and side brushes quite quickly. This is easy to remove and clean with the cutting tool, so it's not a problem, but it's just something you should be aware of. In terms of the linseed test, it collected 92% of the linseeds that we scattered on the carpet, and that is impressive considering the lightness of the seeds. We wanted to see how the 35C would avoid obstacles around the house that you may or may not want to move every time you send the robot out to clean. As you can see, it gently bumped the dog bowl. We were actually happy that none of the water spilled, but it did seem to notice the dog bowl later and circle around it, so that was kind of an interesting feature we weren't expecting. Adding magnetic tape around areas like this is another way of dealing with specific areas you don't want to be continually moving. People are always really interested in how robots clean corners and edges of a house. Here, the power of the dual side brushes on the 35C seems to stop the debris being flung around too much. The edge cleaning function on this robot is especially cool if you want to send it out for a quick clean of only your skirting boards or edges of a room. This robot also has a spot cleaning function, which again is a cool feature that can be used for isolated cleaning. The app lets you manually drive the robot places if you want to directly clean one spot. It is worth noting that this robot can sometimes leave a little bit of dust under where it sits if it hasn't been used for a while, but this is easy to clean or fix by putting on the spot cleaning function. In terms of the side brushes, the bristles on the side brushes tend to collect a fair bit of debris and hair. Don't be surprised about the amount of hair or fur this robot is able to pick up. I know we mentioned it earlier, but if you remember to clean it every now and then, you won't have a build-up problem. Don't worry about the robot falling off stairs as well. This 35 seat has drop sensors that sit under the robot and make sure it doesn't fall off anything. In terms of the dustbin, this robot has a 600 milliliter dustbin, which is actually a lot larger than the size of premium robot dustbins. This does make sense because the 35C doesn't use LiDAR or have any mopping features that normally take up a lot of space, but what it does mean is that it can continue to pick up debris until it runs out of charge and store quite a bit of it. So the user experience on the Eufy Home app is really nice and it's extremely straightforward. Make sure you're close to Wi-Fi and the robot when you first connect the devices together. So the app's main features are the auto cleaning, edge cleaning, spot cleaning and quick cleaning mode, which are pretty handy as soon as you know they're there. And it also sends you notifications to your phone if the robot gets stuck or if you need reminders to clean the drop sensors or fix the side brushes. So that is a helpful bonus feature as well. You can also set up scheduled cleans on the app so you don't even have to think about turning the robot on each time you want to use it throughout the day. The physical remote is a handy assistance tool if you don't feel like using the app or you're away from your phone, and we actually ended up using that a lot more than we thought we would. So as you've seen, this robot is not a fancy robot by any means, but if used 2 to 3 times a week, it can easily become a trusty sidekick and help you have your floors cleaner than they ever would be, and seriously reduce any time you would have spent using a traditional vacuum cleaner. Like you saw, we put it through some difficult tests and a few were quite frankly unrealistic, but it performed a lot better than we expected, and that was impressive to us. You saw how it handled the debris, and the size of the dustbin is a lot larger than other robot vacuums, which only works to its advantage. We really liked it. We lived with it for a few months, and yeah, it was actually a lot better than we expected. So if you have an apartment or a small home with about 1 to 2 bedrooms and you don't leave lots of cords or small tricky objects lying around your floor, this robot is probably going to be perfect for you.